Okay, welcome to spring semester. Okay, so we start this semester with what you see in front of you, bacteria and viruses. Okay, for those of you who plan on entering the healthcare field, this is possibly another one of them hallmark courses that may keep you from moving on in your professional career. Okay, chemistry is another one. Now, this doesn't pertain to everybody. Yes, I understand that. But with that, according to that of what the state of South Dakota requires us to do, okay, is cover this content. So just let me flat out ask you, what is the first thing that comes to your mind when you maybe talk about bacteria and viruses?
COVID.
Okay, so when it comes to that of viruses, is it just a coincidence that we say COVID-19?
No.
Why do we say 19?
19th strain.
Yeah, it's the 19th strain. Just like, for instance, make sure you pick up that bag on the floor. Okay? For those of you who maybe work in the shop, if you have a hex nut and a bolt that won't separate, you can spray this on it. Maybe it's silicone spray, but what's another term? WD-40. The reason it's called that, it's called water displacement. It's probably the 40th formula. That's where it gets its name from. Okay. So, now, what about bacteria? Okay?
Some are good, some are bad.
What would be better? I'm not saying that bacteria is great or viruses is great, but if you had your choice, would you rather have a bacterial infection or a viral infection?
Bacteria.
Probably bacterial, okay? Now,
Some bacteria.
one of the things, okay? Now, this will affect some of you, okay? 8 years, maybe 10 years down the road. Some of you are going to be moms and dads, okay? So if that happens, okay, as a parent, your child now has a temperature of 101 degrees. Should you be concerned?
You should give them a little bit of
Maybe a little bit of children's Tylenol, yes. But why? Now, this is just my estimation, my opinion. Okay?
Guys, be quiet.
Okay? Why is that a good sign to have 101 degrees?
Means your body's fighting off.
Your body is trying to fight that off, okay? Because bacteria only can survive within a narrow range or temperature. So when you have a fever of 101 or more, that is natural, that your body is responding to that. It's once you get to 102, 103, because if it's reached that temperature, it might keep going. Once, there was a classmate of mine who had a fever of 106, okay? That's serious because it can kill you. Not for the reason that you would think. No, it didn't. But what happens is the proteins that drive the enzymes and all the chemical reactions in your body, okay, they start to break apart because proteins just can't handle that type of temperature. So yes, it is a natural, please stop that. It is a natural response that you turn the temperature up on that. But there's a critical level, okay? So bovine, what is a fever in cattle? I would say so because I think 106 is normal for bovine. It's a normal temperature range, okay? you'd have to ask a veterinarian. I don't know if they take temperatures in cattle? I don't know. I think in younger calves you might, but once you get to larger feeder cattle, I don't know if you have to diagnose anything with a fever. You're nodding your head yes? Okay. How do they take the temperature? It's a rectal thermometer? Okay. All right. If you want accuracy, that's where it's at. Okay. So, but can we live without these organisms? Answer is no. Okay? The best example for that is within your digestive tract. Okay? So one of the things that happens to everybody, you just don't like talking about it, if peristalsis is the normal digestive process that moves on in a nice rhythmic pace. But should that start to speed up, okay, that's when things can go bad. Everyone's had that, okay? But what that means is, no pun intended, your body is trying to flush out those bacteria, okay? Because what happens is bacteria help you reabsorb water. And if you can't reabsorb that, your digestive tract is probably moving too fast. All right. So, little introduction on bacteria. We cannot live without these organisms. Bacteria are just too important. Dairy products is a way of looking at that because you can't have yogurt, you can't have cheese, you can't have products like that without bacteria. All right, so moving forward. So why would we say that these are the most numerous organisms on Earth? Because they're microscopic, right? Correct? There'll be more to follow, okay? And it's just a coincidence, part of the added curriculum that we do with this. When we talk about plagues, okay, if you want a way to measure, if you use events to measure time, now, it could be open for debate where I could say, I think Chevys are the best. No, I think Fords are the best. No, I think Dodges are the best, okay? So you can always have those debates. But in general, when it comes to events, recorded events in time, what do you think are the 3 biggest events that have occurred in world history that we date different events on Earth? That's one. World War I. The Black Plague. Hey, I didn't think we would come up with that. No.
Not yet.
You're missing the most obvious one.
World War II.
You're going to hit yourself over the head. It's how we actually use our numeric dates. Right, you're getting closer. Feels like we're playing Pictionary here.
A clock.
Well, you're close. What did you say? Well, you're saying the event, but you're not being specific enough. Now, I heard, but I don't know who said it. What?
The Christmas plague.
Oh. Yeah, the birth of Christ. Okay? That's what I said. That's the most obvious one because when we look at, for instance, let's say the first scientist that would say that maybe categorized bacteria was maybe Aristotle. Okay? Okay? Yeah, because he was a saint. Oh. Okay? And maybe so. All right. So, with that, okay, when we're talking about the birth of Christ, that is year 0. We are now in 2023. AD does not mean after death. It means Anno Dominion, which means year of our Lord. Because if you said 2023 after death, about how many years would be unaccounted for? It's believed that Jesus Christ was about 33 years old when he was crucified. Okay? So when that happens, if you said this was 46 BC, when Rome was starting to gain its power and its empire, or is it 146 BC? When Julius Caesar founded not the Roman army, the Roman, thank you, Roman Empire, okay? So now we say like 314 AD is about when we knew that bacteria existed, but you can't see them. We just know that they're there, okay? So yes, the most numerous organisms on Earth. Now, having a very simple design, means you can adapt very easily, okay? Because let's say an offense. If you have a simple offense, whether it's volleyball, football, basketball, it's easy to adapt different plays if it's a simple offense, right? Okay? So if you have a very simple body plan, it's very easy to be adaptable for that. Okay? So when we look at this, yes, bacteria are important for us as humans, but also you can see important in industry, whether it's the dairy industry or other, even antibiotics. You can't produce antibiotics without bacteria, just like you cannot produce anti-venom without the actual substance from the venomous animal. Okay. So if these are so simple, which they are, how can they pass genetic information from one generation to the next? Well, if these are prokaryotic cells, which means they lack a nucleus, they just have a structure called a nucleoid. And in that nucleoid is that very simple genetic information. Again, you gotta remember, these organisms are very, very simple. And getting back to the Black Plague, okay, is the idea that we studied, it's just a coincidence. This was on the History Channel, I don't know how many years ago. And with that, it's maybe sad to say, at least in my opinion, it's maybe sad to say that we probably could have learned a thing or two should we have followed protocols from what we learned from the Black Death. Now, that was caused by bacteria. This is a virus. So what might be the difference between an epidemic and a pandemic? We're in a pandemic right now.
Pandemic is right away.
Well, so can a pandemic. Well, it takes a little longer, but you're not far off. No. In other words, what we could say,
Is it just a country or?
you're really close. It's just a localized effect is an epidemic. Okay? A pandemic means it's occurring across the world. Now, some of you are talking about the Spanish flu. Yes, that had probably perhaps killed more people than that of COVID-19. I guess I don't know what the actual numbers are, but what's strange about this is when you think what was probably the best protocol that they did in about 1347 is about when the Black Plague or Black Death was at its height. Yes, that's where we learned what quarantining was. You just separate the individual that is sick, and that's what we try to do here. But I don't know if it's just human nature to try to be such advanced problem solvers that maybe we made things worse. I don't know. Because we're always learning things with this, because you can attest to this. 2 years ago, us as staff members, we probably got tired of telling you, do this. Do this. Put your mask on. Okay? Now, one of the aspects, I'm not speaking for all staff members. Did we agree with that? No. But as you're going to learn this when you get out in society, as a valued employee, if the boss tells you to do something, you're going to do it. Okay? So it's not like we wanted to be the mask police and say, put your masks on. Okay? But that's another one of them aspects where we say we're always learning things about medicine as we move forward. Okay? So I do not drive bus in the afternoons. No. At least that may change occasionally, but as of right now, no. I mean, like I said, it might happen here or there, but not on a regular schedule. Okay. So what can you infer? What is the difference between eukaryotic cells and prokaryotic? We just said it. You can't read it there. We'll read about it in a moment, but you can't read it up there. One has a nucleus, one does not, because the genetic information is stored differently. In eukaryotic cells, where's that genetic information stored? What do eukaryotes have? They've got a nucleus, so that's where that material is stored. When it comes to prokaryotic cells, which lack a nucleus, they've got this structure called a nucleoid. Okay? Finally, we'll read through this. Okay? When you think of a capsule, like Tylenol has capsules, what does that mean to you?
It means that it's like you can dump out the powder.
It means there's a type of powder that's enveloped inside a capsule. What was your specific surrounds? What did you say? You're right, but
rounded meal with stuff inside of it.
okay, you're just paraphrasing what I told you. Okay, but okay. All right. So with that, does digestion of these types of medicines, is that more difficult to do? No, it might delay the response a little bit, but you might ask, well, why would you want to prescribe something that is in a capsule? Well, maybe you don't want that immediate effect. Okay. Now, is that accurate? I don't know. But for those of you entering medicine, what we're covering here, again, is we don't want it to be what separates the has and the has-nots. It also affects you farmers as well. I can't imagine going through the calving season right now. That would be awful. There are some farmers that once January hits, that's when we want to have our cattle. Why would they choose to do that? Well, they can, but maybe they're not going to be in the mud because everything's frozen. But maybe more importantly, wouldn't you be the first to market then? You get a better price? Maybe. Well, they're going to be bigger at that time, is right. Now, is that going to be accurate? I don't know. I'm not a farmer. That's just speculation. Okay. So, go ahead and open up to page 516. Okay? Because 514 is where the chapter starts, so 516, please. Okay. We won't spend a whole lot of time here. So, diversity of prokaryotes, okay, on page 516. Many scientists think that the first organisms on Earth were microscopic unicellular organisms called prokaryotes. Today, prokaryotes are the most numerous organisms on Earth. They are found everywhere from depths of the ocean to the highest mountains. Some prokaryotes are the only organisms able to survive in hostile environments, such as in the water, in hot sulfur springs or in the Great Salt Lake. Now, when they mention the Great Salt Lake, you can correlate it to biblical terms. Why is it called the Dead Sea? Because nothing lives there. So if anything was going to have a chance to live in the Dead Sea, it would be what type of organisms? And why? And prokaryotes. Why would that be? Well, not only that, but these organisms are so simple that what we say about your basketball offense, you can adapt very easily. Okay. The word prokaryote in a Greek word means before a nucleus. Okay? All prokaryotes were once classified into one group, kingdom Monera, based on the lack of a nucleus and membrane-bound organelles. However, modern research has shown that great differences exist among prokaryotes. They are now divided into two domains, domain bacteria and domain archaea bacteria. Okay? So, we're not going to bore you to death with all the different kingdoms of bacteria. That's where you can say, why, thank you. Okay, so page 518, prokaryote structure. Okay? Your parents would know this, but when you talk about mad cow disease, what does that mean to you? Well, yeah, it is. But this is where we could say you can consume an animal that's got mad cow disease. You can. But where do you suppose an organism is affected in mad cow disease? Yeah, it's a prion, actually, in their brains. But theoretically, you could consume the meat on that animal, you'd be unaffected. But are you willing to take that chance? No. I probably wouldn't either. Okay. Prokaryote structure. Prokaryotes are microscopic unicellular organisms. They have some characteristics of cells such as DNA and ribosomes, but they lack a nuclear membrane and other membrane-bound organelles such as mitochondria and chloroplasts. Okay? Now, what do we know about mitochondria? They are the powerhouse of the cell where ATP gets broke down. That's right. Although a prokaryotic cell is very small and doesn't have membrane-bound organelles, it has all it needs to carry out life functions. Remember, these organisms are very, very simple. Okay? So as you read about the structure of prokaryotic cells, examine figure 3 is what it says. Chromosomes. The chromosomes in prokaryotes are arranged differently than the chromosomes found in eukaryotic cells. Their genes are found in a large circular chromosome in an area of the cell called the nucleoid. Again, why don't we say nucleus? Well, they don't have one. They got a nucleoid because these are prokaryotes. Many prokaryotes have at least one smaller piece of DNA called a plasmid, which is also called a circular arrangement. Capsules, that's like what you said earlier. It surrounds the organism. So capsule. Some prokaryotes secrete a layer of polysaccharides around the cell, forming a capsule, illustrated in figure 3. Okay? So you can actually see that in that figure. It's that funny-looking structure up on the top of the page. The capsule has several important functions, including preventing the cell from drying out, probably the most critical, keeping it from drying out. Helping the cell attach to the surface of its environment. The capsule also helps maintain bacteria from being engulfed by white blood cells and shelters the cells from effects of antibiotics. Now, so what do we mean by antibiotics?
It kills all the bacteria.
Yeah, and it does. But sometimes, just whoever threw those, just please make sure you pick them up. Okay? So with that, so an antibacteria then, okay, does just that. Okay? It kills off bacteria. Okay? So one of two things happens to get rid of bacteria. Either one, the antibiotic will cause the cell membrane to rupture, okay? Breaks down the cell membrane, okay? Just because they don't have a nucleus doesn't mean they don't have a cell membrane. They do, okay? They actually have those structures that attach to other surfaces or other bacteria. And when that happens, they can exchange their genetic material, okay?
Infections, you can only like fight it, you can't like cure it.
I think you're just treating the symptoms. You're suppressing it so it doesn't get any worse. I think you're disrupting the genetic code of it.
Would the flu season for viral infection?
Yes, that's correct, okay? And then the final aspect is if you turn the temperature up, that also causes the cell membrane to rupture. Okay, that's all I have. We'll catch up to you next time.